Excellent connection. Excellent, dude. I should change that. Doodaloo-doo. Doodaloo-doo-doo. I hear that. Amazing, isn't it? So many things just don't... Yeah, okay, and then we can do that, and we can transition over. So, hello everyone! We got our stuff up. Oh, I gotta switch that. I gotta... full screen that. There we go. Cool. That works. Alright.
I see us. Let me turn on the volume on this and see if I hear us.
Cool, that's important. I seem to be getting audio on both sides. Which is important because I recorded a video earlier this week and it had no audio. So that was fun.
Okay, I hear all of us. I hear me, I hear Brent, and I hear Steve.
Okay, great. I think we are good to go then.
Sweet.
Alright, I will go ahead and kick us off. Hello everyone, it is time for us to dig deeper. I need a shovel. We're going to talk about a little 2018 anime film called Oko's Inn, which is a charming little piece of work. It is based on a series of children's novels, which were adapted into a TV anime series a little before that, but I believe this movie is sort of an origin story. It's sort of the wrap-up kind of a storyline around Oko's Inn. So spoiler warnings, we are going to talk about some of the plot, some of the things that happen in the movie, because I think it is pretty central to understanding it and getting a sense of what's going on there. It's, I got to admit, so, John, you recommended this, and I'm so glad you did. It was a lovely experience. It is just really, really sweet. But it's a little bit more than that. So, what were your guys' reactions like as you were watching it? I mean, for me, watching it, I know it started, and I got a pretty good sense of the tone of it early on. But then it evolved for me a little bit. How about you guys?
So I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about this anime. I didn't even know it was a manga until you just said it, or children's stories until you just said it. And so I went into it, and again, it's out of my normal anime watching wheelhouse, but that's a good thing because you can only watch so much mecha all the time. So sometimes you need a refresher, and this is definitely a refresher. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was. I knew what was going to happen, what the premise of the story was. So that wasn't so much of a shocker when the parents died. It's just like, I wasn't expecting them. Normally when you see something like that, you see like the sound cut to black and maybe a little bit more sound, and then something happens and then whatever. No, you get to see like the truck coming at you and, things like that. You're just like, which makes sense later on because there's a scene much later on in the movie where she has a PTSD moment. So seeing that, I was just like, oh, I thought we were going to watch a nice, sweet comedy movie. and then, but it did turn into that. It was funny in parts, and it was very, very, very sweet. And, I just, again, I enjoyed it. And part of the reason why I enjoyed it is because, as I was saying earlier to you guys, going to a ryokan is something that I actually want to do in my life. And, that's actually, like I said before, someday when I'm able to get to Japan and have the real countryside inn experience, that's what I would like to do. So a large part of this anime was a lot of fun for me, just kind of watching the actual process of it. And, and then her training, being the junior innkeeper. And, and one of the things that I thought was kind of neat was one specific point where the hostess, not her grandmother, but the hostess, explains to her, okay, it's 6 steps to every tatami mat. I step on the crack, and there's ways of movement and things like that to, go. It's I found all that very interesting. And then, of course, the story itself, which is, about her dealing with her parents' deaths, and some of those characters were. I was not expecting Yorvio. I was not expecting that the first introduction of him is him flicking boogers at people.
Yeah.
And I was just like going, okay, that's a different kind of ghost. That's wonder what yokai classification we would give this guy.
Yeah.
And it just went on from that, and so I enjoyed it. I just feel like I probably should watch the anime only because characters Yuribo, maybe you guys can correct me on this. Yuribo, Mio, and what's the Bell Demon's name again? Suzuki. Suzuki?
Cannot tell you.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
It might have been Suzuki. Yeah.
Suzuki. And I just felt like particularly with Suzuki, which I really like that little character, but I just wish there was more explanation about him, and maybe that's
you could,
his constant eating.
Yeah,
like
you could feel the episodic nature of in the bones of this, right? Like you could see where this was based on a series of stories. Yeah, totally. John, how about you?
Well, as I had said to you, Brent, in messaging that there are weaknesses in it. I mean, you don't have a lot of explanation. Oh, how did you pass? I fell off a roof.
Yeah,
and that's the end of it. And it's like the posing Ryokan. It's like her ghost is, I just died when I was 7.
Yeah,
like, oh,
like what's the backstory? What do
yeah.
you mean? I mean,
and that's where I think the episodic part comes in. It's like, you could see where this would go from week to week, and that you'd have a flashback, and you'd see more of what's going on in that. But I have no idea, honestly, how this came out of things. I don't know if it popped up on my anime list to remind me that this movie was finally available, or if I was just cruising along. Because after Akira and Momotaro, it was like, okay, maybe you could find something that's like not great with the Fireflies or Barefoot Gen. Like maybe we could bring the house up a little bit, get the lights up, get a little funny going on.
Yep.
And when I read the description, I'm like, how is this going to be a lot different than Hanasaku Iroha? How is this going to? Is this is it going to be the same kind of thing? And I just launched it. Gave it a shot, and I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, she's much younger than Hanasaku, so her perspective is far different. And I don't like, this is like the Disney thing. I hate to see the parents oft like that. But I like the way that they explored when they're going shopping, and she starts to freak out.
Yeah.
I like that exploration. For Hanasaku, the mom's just a deadbeat.
Yeah.
And abandons her daughter to her mother, the daughter's grandmother, and just goes off to be a complete jerk. And I mean, it's like this. The parents are done in an artistic style that really felt like Ghibli.
Oh,
like
yes.
The father, the way his hair was, I'm like, oh my god. It's the wind also rises. I'm like, that's the hairdo.
Totally.
The mother reminded me of some of the facial and hairstyle, no joke, of Yamato.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I'm like, what is going on there?
I was thinking 70s anime when I saw her.
Yeah.
So
it's like these are really interesting sort of homage-y pieces to things. It's like the grandmother's facial expressions sometimes also have some of the Ghibli kind of face kind of expressions. So this was we had finished up talking about Momotaro. Sunday came. I was just sort of kicking around. I watched a few episodes of this. I watched a little bit more of To Love Ru again. I watched another couple episodes of Ergo Proxy, and then struck on this, and I was just like, gosh, I laugh, I cry. How do you flick ghost boogers? I don't know. I'm not sure how that goes. The opposing Ryokan.
Yeah.
If the girl had had blonde hair with big twirls, I'd be like, this is the character that everybody calls Drills.
That's the thing, yes.
That character type. So it's
man.
This is just a comfortable show with some really nice sweetness to it. Weaknesses in storyline. But it's not disastrous to the progression. It feels nice. You get every kind of emotion along the board, and it comes out nicely.
Well,
it's just like, oh, thank you.
And I think those weaknesses are almost well, really are kind of ignorable. It's one of those things where you're watching the movie and you're like, oh, I hope we find out what happened to this character. I hope we find out what happened to this character. It's never addressed, and it's like I would have liked to have seen that, but it doesn't like really detract from the overall story.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for your ghost pals, you don't really have a great intro to exactly why are they there. Do we address anything that's like, oh, they have unresolved regrets?
Yeah. And I mean,
the opposing ghost girl for the opposing inn, she was 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't really have a lot of regrets in the way of 7. The opposing ghost boy, okay, he was a little bit older. He had an attachment to the grandmother. So, you know what I mean? You could say, oh, I see the red string of fate kind of thing, where you're attached to the grandmother and hence you followed her on. Other girl, it's like...
Yeah. And she's been...
It didn't matter.
And she's been looking after her sister. But that's not resolved at the end, right? Like, there's no reason for her to move on at that point. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, in fact, I said, I wrote down here, oh gods, Frilly Pink is the most cliche rich girl I've ever seen. And she is just that, yes. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, I think it is absolutely playing to that cliche in a very comforting way. Where it's like, we don't need to really vary this. We don't need to change things around because it fits into this story perfectly. And I also appreciate that they address that a little bit. Like, I love that scene later on where where Oko goes to the inn that is, the size of the Empire State Building, and starts going around and goes into the girl's room, and you see that she's watching Oko, and then runs over to her chair, plops down like she's always been reading. This is just, Oko happens to be here? Oh, I wouldn't possibly have known.
In her giant library.
I know. I was just like, first of all, I'm watching this. I'm like going, this is an inn as she's going up the elevator. Yeah. Over the landscape, like the kingdom of really then going into that massive library, and I'm like going, can I have that food library?
Yeah.
Can I have that?
Who knew that running a traditional Japanese inn was like running a casino in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Who knew?
And that's the thing. And obviously they're playing a bit off of commercialization of the hotel industry and so forth, and how that, little bit. But no, it's interesting. I mean, to me, she's very much that character. Like you said, her dad is like the dad from Totoro. Basically, the mom is, Starsha, basically. One of her classmates, I swear, was pulled right out of Pretty Cure. Like it's just the character, the Pretty Cure character design is very, very close there. And I'm sorry,
easily.
that little demon kid is straight out of Inuyasha.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be Shippo.
Shippo, exactly.
Shippo with little horn.
Yep.
Yeah. Although I liked his casual attitude of just eating everything, where he's just like,
exactly.
Yeah, you might want to go over there. Like,
yeah.
Gets in the car and tells Oko the most important thing. Yeah, the date has already been set. And he's just like,
what?
Yeah. And he's just sitting there just like, yeah, date's been set. Very blasé about the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's interesting how very how much this is clearly like pulling from anime stereotypes, I guess would be the right term, but in ways that work in their story. The young boy who is dealing with the loss of his mom, he's straight of like Gundam Seed, just very much Kira Yamato, and it's weird. Normally, I would kind of turn up my nose at this, but I think they made it work really well in just the overall feel of the work. But it's also interesting, like how it also plays around with some things. She's always wearing jeans. She, I can't recall the last time I was introduced to a little girl character in anime who wasn't wearing a skirt or a dress. It's just such a thing visually that she's a girl, so she's wearing a skirt or she's wearing a dress. And unless she's like the tomboy of the group.
Right, I was going to say, you do have the plot point where you get that, where she wears pants and she's rough and tumble and she's specifically the character tomboy.
Yeah.
Versus, a lot of the time, most of the young kids are wearing, sometimes they're wearing shorts, but yes, most of the time it's something short, skirt or shorts, but it's kiddie.
Yeah.
It's very kiddie.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I love the fact that it doesn't feel like they're like deliberately trying to make her look like a tomboy or adult or anything like that. It's just kids also wear this kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's just that, and like it worked on her. I also loved.
It was sort of vaguely not tropey.
Right, exactly.
You know, so it's like, oh, she's wearing pants. She's a tomboy. Well, oh, she isn't?
Well, yeah, especially when she
okay, what is she then? It's like, haha, see? A little corner turned there.
She sees the spider and all the lizards, and she's
Yeah.
got this terrified expression. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
So she's not just walking over and picking them up, being like, yeah, lizards, bugs, fun. I'm the prototypical tomboy. No, she's very stereotypically girly in those situations.
Yeah. And I also actually want to call out the fact that I really appreciate how her voice actor handled those moments where she didn't do like the really shrill anime girl scream. She's like, whatever. Because you could very easily turn that into sort of ear splitting. But it was just, that surprise, which was nice.
I don't know what it is that I have, why I get notices of them, but it's all these, I get these notices that are voice actors' birthdays. I got one yesterday, and there was Oko, because it shows the voice actor or actress, and then a screen of all of the characters they play. There's Oko. Her voice actress just celebrated her 16th birthday.
Wow.
So, she's really only like 4 or 5 years older than Oko.
Yeah.
It's just like, ow.
Wow.
This actress, she had already like 10 different character parts that she's played by 16.
Dang. So she would have been like 13 when she recorded that. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Like, damn.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
Can I have that luck? Although I don't think I'd play a good small girl. That would be too shocking.
Exactly. It is also interesting, this stuff, like the little hints you have about, like you were saying about the ryokan culture and service and so forth. I love the fact that when Oko shows up, she's at the entrance being, welcomed by the other staff members. Then her grandmother shows up, escorting guests in, and she does not run up to her granddaughter and welcome her. She does not, do anything like that. She's with a frickin' set of guests, and so she is going to finish that job before she, deals with her daughter or her granddaughter. And nobody points that out. Nobody talks about it. That's just what you do.
Which was also interesting that you get the moment where she's got the boy ghost is like, get out of the way. You're in the way.
Yeah.
She's like, what? Oh, okay, yeah. Like, she is truly not dialed into how her grandmother runs the ryokan. Even though her parent, it's like, this isn't it's not like Hanasaku where you've got obviously the mother and daughter are estranged. So the granddaughter has basically no idea. She knows her grandmother runs a ryokan, but she has no idea what goes on there. Here we've got the parents. They visit the grandmother, so Oko knows what's going on with the ryokan, but she's on the other side of it. She's inside, and it doesn't dial into her, except for that moment where it's like, get out of the way. Yes, boom.
At the very beginning of it, she's sitting there watching the ceremony, the spring ceremony, the hot spring ceremony, and the story behind it, and she's totally bored, and she just wants to go home, and she doesn't really care. So this obviously, so yeah, she's not dialed into it because she doesn't really care. She wants to go back to her city where there's no bugs and salamanders and, ghosts flicking boogers at her and, whatnot. So,
Civilization.
She had civilization where nobody flicks boogers at me, kind of thing. And but she has no interest. Like there is zero. Like she doesn't care. And the only interest she shows is when her parents say, "Oh, well, we had wanted to be the pair up on the stage," and she's like, "Oh, really?" And the mother does the little movement.
Yeah.
And she's kind of entranced by the, Oko is kind of like, "Oh, that's actually kind of cool, I guess," and kind of a thing. And as they're driving away, he's saying, "Oh, we didn't get a chance to see your grandmother," and then, of course, all hell breaks loose. She somehow winds up on the top of a car. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but
because Oribo, she alludes to the fact that Oribo somehow gently gets her down to that spot. But you look at the roof of that car, there was nothing damn well gentle about that. That was a human body splat in the top of a car.
Yeah.
How she came out pretty okay, I don't know. I will say, it is one of the few times I can think where you actually have your core character protagonist actually encounter the people that are involved in the fatal accident.
Yes.
Almost every other time you see somebody get splatted, it's like a random guy in a truck, and maybe sometimes you see him go, "Oh!" and then the terror happens, and that's the last you ever see of it.
Yeah.
And yet they brought this up and dealt with it in such an interest. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, what would you do if you encountered somebody who totally, was not trying to do what happened? He wasn't trying to kill anybody.
Yeah.
And you have to internalize the fact that this is not a bad person. This is things that happen bad to that person and then bad to you, and they are related, but they're not fault-driven in the greater sense of you purposely did something to this. So it's like, wow, I've not seen too many situations like that.
So in that scene, that wonderful scene where she runs over to Frilly Pink and gets help, she comes back and they're making the thing and he's enjoying it, and then you get more of the backstory. Oh, his entire kidney's taken out, most of his pancreas, and then I'm like going, no, that's not, no. And then it gets further in, and the grandmother's checking the registry, and then suddenly you're just like pause.
That is where that I think was done beautifully, because you have this sort of crescendo. You're building. Oh, he's not really enjoying things. He can't have salt. It's building. I'm going to do what I need to do for the guest. It's building. He loves the food. This is awesome. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, look at the name in the register. Like, oh, you're going to take my, riding on the wave of, she's learned service. Boom! And just dump the whole thing on the rocks,
And here's what I love about that. If it had just been him and his wife, and he's all banged up, I might have guessed that 15 minutes earlier. But the fact that the story's about his son, you're like, oh, that's what all this is about. We're just dealing with that, fine. And then, no, there's this whole other layer to it, which is brilliant misdirection. Yeah.
Not ham-fisted misdirection, because there are plenty enough examples in anime where you just have a random character show up and you're like, what is that? And then you get snapped back to whatever they're trying to drive at, and you're like, oh, that was kind of poorly segued. Yeah. But this was, I mean, it's just like, wow.
And a good example of the subtlety, when Frilly Pink gives her the papers at the end, and the menu and all that, she takes it down to the chef, and he comments on how, this is going to be easy to make because of all the stickies. Yeah. And you saw the stickies she was putting in, the first time you meet her, she's preparing all this stuff. You got all these stickies all over the place. I'm like, that visual reference. Nobody said, I like to sticky things, but just having all that in gives you that extra little bit of, she actually cared enough to actually put in all of this work. Love it.
And I think it's, it really gives a good quality for the storyline and for the the people who are visualizing how this is going to come together as an anime when they don't need to say that.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't flip it open and go, "Oh, thank goodness it's indexed with all of these sticky notes." Like, you don't need to hit it.
Your friend really knew.
You don't need to punch me in the face. You've shown me the visual, and then you just move on with it. It's like, oh, thank you. That's a quality act right there. You're like, I infer what those are and what the backstory is. That you don't even need to say a word. You're like, there's a lot of care involved.
And that's the other thing I like about this is that if you show this to a kid, they're going to follow the main plot. They don't need that detail, right? If they miss that, that's fine. It doesn't prevent them from understanding the plot. It's something that on their third watching or fifth watching, they can see, oh, look, stickies. That's a thing, Yeah. It's great. And the director of this worked at Studio Ghibli for years, by the way. He was a long time...
Could explain the father's look there.
Yep, exactly. In fact, the end credits is all like his storyboards, and they're all like Studio Ghibli style storyboards, which is like. And so here's an interesting thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when the storyboards came up and I was watching them, and with the credit scene, I was just like, oh, there's gonna be something at the end. It might be an end credit scene, because it really felt that way to me somehow.
Yeah, I watched it all the way through for the same kind of thing. I'm like, okay, is there gonna be a surprise plot twist?
There's a payoff here.
Parents show up.
As ghosts, and not like psychological trauma ghosts. We love you, honey. You're doing great. You're not actually alive, are you? No, we're not.
Not.
Torture.
And actually, I want to get back to that in a second. But heck, let's talk about it now. One of the interesting things about this is the treatment of the parents' ghosts. I found it really interesting that you never know that she's seeing her parents' ghosts. For all you can tell, this is her in her mind. The first time it's like a dream, right? She just wakes up, and all these other things. It could very well be, a child trying to deal with the trauma and imagining what their parents would do in the situation. And so the way they layer that, I think, is very psychologically accurate. Where initially she's just remembering, times in her life when she was spending time with her parents and crawling into that bed and, them, whatever. And then later on, it's them saying, okay, honey, now that this has gone on for a while, it's time for you to kind of process this and move on. Again, just very mature approach to that.
I hated that crawling into bed. It's just like, that's sad. Yeah, I mean...
This isn't really happening. Why can't it really be happening?
Can't this be a happy No.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I was surprised because they did a great job of having her fall asleep. Then she wakes up in the middle of the night, and you don't immediately realize she's not in the ryokan anymore. It takes a few moments of going, wait, that's a different room. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, it's a memory. It's well done. So here's the thing. I don't know if the director worked on the TV series or not. I don't think he did. Let me just double check, because that would be an interesting thing to find out.
I've not even tried to look for the TV series yet.
The question. Looks like he did not. So the reason it looks the way it looks is because of the TV series, right? It's going to copy the style of the TV series.
Right.
If they had made this movie look like those storyboards, if they had given it the character designs of a Studio Ghibli movie,
wow.
Do you think this would be like an instant classic? Would everyone be watching this movie now?
If it was a Studio Ghibli production and not just a look-alike, I think you probably would have had enough sort of, street cred for the studio to make it one of the classic pieces, but I don't think just aping the style of it would have made a fantastic difference. You know what I mean? It's like just the style alone doesn't get you there.
But that's the
I
thing.
think by having a slightly different style, some elements like the father,
Yeah.
and then greater differences along the line help the story to stand, by itself and not just under the shade of something else.
But that's the thing. Like I think this would very easily fit alongside The Cat Returns and Tales from Earthsea. And other Studio Ghibli films. I think it has the potential qualities of those things.
I think if it was more in the, first of all, I think if it's presented with the style that we saw, the storyboard style that we saw, I think a lot of people would have had initial interest in it and going, wait, it's not Studio Ghibli, but it looks like Studio Ghibli. And I think there would have been an initial reaction to it, and I think it would probably have more name value simply because people would be like, wow, this looks like a Studio Ghibli, but it isn't, but the director's kind of connected to it. It's kind of unique. I think if the story had been tighter, and with that storyboard visuals, then I think you might, I don't know if it would be an instant classic, but I think people would be talking about Oko's Inn like they would be talking about other anime where they would just be like, the name recognition would be instant. Where people would be like, oh, Oko's Inn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I hear that.
It makes me think of, what is it, Mary the Witch from a couple of years ago?
Mary the Witch's Flower, yeah.
I mean, that got a lot of talk, and then as soon as it stopped making the rounds, I haven't heard anything else about it. I haven't had a chance to see it, but it's like, it just sort of dropped off. And it's like, something that is in the vein of Ghibli isn't necessarily, it's not gonna ride that very well. But, although the story itself is quality enough to get the attention.
But and I think that's what I'm saying is Mary certainly got a lot more attention than Oko's. So would that have just given it that extra push to make it at least maybe a Mary's scale? Yeah. I don't know.
I think I agree with Steve that, and as we had talked about, I think you would have to address some of the weaknesses in general in the plot to tighten it up to a point that you can make it a Studio Ghibli like film. And I mean, I think this is great the way that it is. I wouldn't, because it is extant the way it is, I wouldn't go and change it, like make a remake and then fix some of the weaknesses. I like the way it came out.
Reboot.
I definitely don't think this one would get a reboot. But you know what I mean? I think to have it have more momentum, you would have to have made the story tighter. And that's not detracting.
Yeah.
This is a different guy, different studio, different thing. This is not,
Yeah. And it's adapting a well-known property, so that's a different situation. You're not going in and either telling an original story or, Kiki's Delivery Service is a single novel. That's a different thing you're trying to do. Agreed. I think it's a lovely film. I'm also intrigued by the amount of what looked to be rotoscoping in the dance sequence at the beginning and the end.
Dance.
Yeah. It definitely looked that looked like footage I've seen of actual people doing the whole thing.
But it didn't give that creep out feel.
No, not at all. That's the thing.
However they did it, whether it was actual true rotoscoping or they just spent a crap ton of time trying to get the moves right, the fans moving, the hands out and around. They did not creep me out. They didn't make it visually disjointed. They didn't make it stand out so different from the surrounding characters that you're like, I don't, it doesn't do anything for me. It was well blended. So kudos to them how they got the effect.
I was going to say that at that dance, at the end when they're doing the dance and doing the storytelling, that's the Inuyasha moment that I had. With her character, she's dressed up as the wolf or dog demon or whatever it was, and because it's the red coat, the crazy white hair,
Yep,
on top, and and I just I'm watching this, them doing the dance because they're the two heirs of the different Ryokans. And I'm like sitting there going, God, she kind of looks like, okay, she's happy that she's doing it. She's concentrating. You have all that internal monologue about, we're gonna see each other reincarnated in the future. We'll come back and blah blah blah. And as she's going along, she doesn't look. Again, I didn't get creepy, but she just looked kind of just like, oh, okay. She kind of looks like the wild child that she could have been. I guess I don't know, but I had that wild wildness essence to her as she's going through the dance, and I'm just kind of like going, where was that the entire rest of the movie? Because I didn't get that for the rest of the movie. But when they did the dance and everyone's kind of moving on and things like that, and the dance was the the moving on point for everyone to leave, and that's I felt like the preparing for her to see everyone go away finally, because that's the other thing is that was as they were going through the movie, where towards the last quarter she stopped seeing them all the time.
Yeah,
like she was going through, and then suddenly she's not seeing them. And what's the Pixar movie with all the different feelings?
Inside Out.
Inside Out, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of the scene when she had to leave her imaginary, the imaginary friend behind in the lost memories kind of thing, and move on. I'm like going, all right, a little bit depressed here.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I found it really interesting. I think in a lot of other things, she wouldn't have seen them and we wouldn't have either. Right? Like, she would have stopped seeing them and they would have just been sort of out of sight, out of mind for the audience. But the fact that you see them yourself, they're still around. They're not just sort of fading in and out of existence right now. She just cannot see them. Oh, yeah. That's what made that hard.
Which, that last dance scene, I'm just like,
We're
moving on. No, don't leave. No.
Yeah.
Keep flipping those boogers, Yu-Yu.
Yeah, just hang in there, kids. You'll be fine. Don't reincarnate yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's an interesting aspect too, because her not seeing the ghosts is also, the pretty clear metaphor that she is not only getting further away from the trauma that led her to see the ghosts, but she's also becoming more of an adult.
Yeah.
She's getting older. She's learned more things. She's now inhabiting this role as the junior hostess. And I mean, they're not, and I hate to say that because it just kills me, they're not as necessary in her life.
Yeah.
It's like, just tear my heart out right here.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's absolutely true. It's one of the neat things about this film is that you watch it, you're like, oh, that's charming. Oh, that was really well assembled. Like, they really thought through all the pieces of that. Of this is why this is happening right now. It's pretty impressive.
I'm glad I didn't recommend a turkey.
Yeah, no.
Yay! Legend of the Overfiend.
Yay!
What's wrong with that? Like,
to the kids.
Get the whole family in there.
There was one scene that was just shows the difference between, Japanese and American cultural values, where, girl goes in to give a drink to a female guest, and then the next day the female guest takes the preteen girl out shopping alone with her.
And not a problem there.
Totally fine. You can just go off with a stranger. It'll be totally cool. It's like, huh? Wow. I would not do that.
Especially when said stranger is supposed to be a successful psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, what did I say about weaknesses in this story? There are weaknesses here.
Yep.
Driving a Porsche.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that particular character, I was just like going, God, that's some mad money if she's able to do all that, if just being a psychic reader. Because let me tell you something, there's a psychic reader about a block and a half away this way, and it's in a dumpy apartment building. It's like one of those, I can read your palms.
Arrow.
5 minutes. Give me $25. Yeah, Arrow. It's like a pawn, and it's right next door to the pawn shop. So it's like,
yeah.
I'm like going. Do psychics make more money in
Well,
Japan? I don't know.
I would imagine that
But-
there's
but
probably
it's
a tongue-in-cheek there involved in the huckster element
Yes.
of psychic readings,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah,
That goes all the way back to, what was it, Nancy Reagan with her consulting psychics for what Ronnie should do in the White House. You know what I mean? That's an age-old sort of deal for the con. But it's certainly
and
an
again,
interesting
though-
element of, would you, in a traditional ryokan, allow one of your employees, regardless of whether it's granddaughter, daughter, whoever the hell, but one of your employees, to go with one of your guests just on a jaunt, and then have the guest buy your employee stuff? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if this was
And
Hanasaku, that would
the
be
Wall
like
Street.
hell would break loose. There would be no way in hell that would happen. You know?
Yeah, I know it's interesting, and again, it's one of those things where, for the plot, I get it, but
Because in real life, that Oko would never come back. It would be a short anime. She'd just get in the car and never come back.
Well, no, this is Japan. She'd come back, but her grandmother would lay into her like there was no tomorrow. What are you doing? This is a guest. This is a valued guest. You're endangering the reputation of our inn. You are, flagrantly, any number of horrible parade of horribles would occur from that, and it would be that would be not a good place to be. That would be not an anime I'd want to watch. Like 35 minutes of berating a small child. Like, thank you, no.
yeah. But thank you, yes, to Oko's Inn. That was a lovely little film. Yeah.
It's a nice decompressing film from,
Exactly,
even though it
yes.
still had sadness, there was emotional, there were feels in there, but it was nice decompressing from some of the more serious aspects of Akira and Momotaro.
Yeah. And actually, to that point, but before we totally move on, again, I appreciated the fact that it did deal with that trauma in a fairly age-appropriate way. Like when she's in that car and things are driving around, she doesn't start screaming; she just starts hyperventilating, and I love that thing of being a kid and not wanting to be a bother, and just wanting to let this go on and be a thing, but you're not able to process this. You just can't handle it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Oko's Inn, charming, lovely.
Woohoo!
Charming,
Cool.
lovely, and not an emotional slog.
Exactly. Which is rather nice.
And now let's go on to talk about Grave of the Firefly.
Hey! I actually have some ideas for some other things before Grave, I think. I think we can find some middle ground there. Cool.
Colton Boy, the movie. Ooh. No. Just, no.
I'm sure there's lots of deep, complex things in that movie that we can discuss and analyze.
Oh, there's somebody who's got some deep, complex things going on in that one. So, yeah.
Fair. Cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back at 9 with the news. So I will see you all there. And, enjoy a little bit of trivia until then. See ya in a bit. Cool. All right. And hello everyone. Welcome back. Good to see everyone for the Friday night stream. We're going to get to go into everything here in a moment. Saturday stream, right, Saturday. Durhey. It hasn't been that bad of a week, and yet still I'm in this spot. That is life. So hello everyone. Got John and Steve here as usual on this Saturday night. What you guys been up to this week?
Watching anime.
Watching lots of anime. Watching food anime.
Ah.
Food anime.
Yeah.
Watching Food Wars. A very interesting adult perspective on culinary tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it does have an interesting. It's on Netflix. It has interesting actual food hints. Like you can actually follow a recipe of sorts. You can look it up, but some of these are actual recipes. But it's interspersed with some interesting visuals.
Visuals, yes.
And I'll just leave it at that. But been watching that. Watched, of course, Goes In, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and a lot of Retro Crush. So a lot of retro.
Mm-hmm. Any particular retro anime?
Well, I was going to say, interesting thing that Food Wars, I think it's still on Crunchyroll. So it's on Netflix and Crunchyroll simultaneously.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's where I started watching The Fifth Plate, was when it launched on Crunchyroll. They've got all the prior 4 seasons. So, which probably means it's going away from Crunchyroll as soon as Fifth Plate finishes. It's probably disappearing from the catalog. But
Interesting. John, what you been watching?
Uzaki-chan, the HX Eros series. I think Rental Girlfriend finished. I think that's done. Watched the end of Snafu. Watched some more Ergo Proxy. Rewatched a little bit of To Love Ru.
Nice.
I got a problem. I just keep watching anime. And really looking forward to this next season because I keep seeing all the announcements. That I get little emails and little notices from my anime list. It's just like, oh, you can't pick up girls in it. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Is getting a season 3. There's a lot of stuff that's coming along. Was it Burn the Witch?
Yep.
Coming out, and I'm like, oh boy, jeez, oh. And it's like I keep checking. All my sources, I check. I'm like, no, I gotta stop it. Next season doesn't start for like a while, and I still keep checking. I'm like, oh, I still want it to hurry up.
Yeah.
Please, give me.
All been there.
How about you, Brent? What are you watching? Besides, and we watched Okos.
Yeah,
so,
we watched Okos. Okos in. I've actually spent some time this Saturday rewatching some older anime. Hyperdolls, the OVA, which is a very, very goofy comedy. Basically, 2 teenage alien girls come to Earth to save Earth, but are too busy eating McDonald's to bother saving the Earth. So they just get too distracted by their normal lives and arguing between each other. And then when they do save the Earth, they normally wipe out half the city in the process. So it's one of those sort of things. Not very serious, I'll put it that way. Similarly, Dragon Half, the another 90s OVA. As I keep having to tell people, this is not the hentai one. That's Dragon Pink, is what you're thinking of. Dragon Half is a very goofy, sort of bounces between super deformed and standard, very just over-the-top screwball comedy throwing at you about a teenage half-dragon, half-human girl who is trying to get tickets for a concert by her favorite singer, Dick Saucer, which gives you an idea of the overall seriousness of this OVA.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, now.
And he goes around just going, saucer, saucer. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And actually, we're talking about this. The 90s were a time when you would throw everything into an OVA and just everything happens. You name it, it happens. And it feels like these days we have much more sort of consistent media products coming out of anime. You know, it's just not the same that it used to be. So,
well, in that respect, were those '90s OVAs to cap a manga run to generate interest in a currently extant manga run into then segue into an anime? You know what I mean? It's like, were those '90s things a specific vehicle for other things versus it seems a little bit more that the OVAs now provide you plot points of currently running things that, you know, tie up some loose ends and move the story along.
And that's absolutely what both of these things are. Dragon Half is fairly self-contained. Hyperdolls is, I mean, they literally like do flashbacks to the stuff that happened in clearly like Chapter 1 to give you some context of what's going on. But it's very much just, here's the swimsuit episode, and here's the Matsuri episode, you know, the festival episode. It's just those two things. And so it's, you know, if you're a fan of this, what do you want to see animated? It's these.
Let's go to the beach and wear yukata.
So it's just been interesting seeing how things have changed. Again, just because of things have changed, and I think also just the market is not what it used to be. You know, Hyperdolls was aimed very squarely at the however many folks who bought the Hyperdolls manga. There was no market outside of that, really.
Right.
And today we have to have a different audience. So that's just that. Trying to think what else.
Were those OVAs released? Like I've seen a bunch of some of the older stuff where it's like, oh, this is the 14th episode OVA that was released with the final manga edition as an insert.
Yeah, that's good. I do not know,
kind of
but
thing?
yeah, probably. Yeah, it feels like it very much.
That seemed to be like a very popular thing. It's like, buy the last volume of the manga and you get this OVA. You're like, oh, I got you. Cool.
Yeah, one thing they've been doing recently is what is it? They've been doing like essentially promo videos now more, where when the 7th volume comes out, they'll do a 60-minute promo anime video and put it on YouTube to celebrate that, and we'll actually animate the manga and like have a studio actually animate that to give you kind of a taste and a feel for the what that would look like animated. And I think that's kind of how they're starting that. And then of course you get a few of those, like you say, where you buy a volume and you get a 20-minute, 30-minute thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So that's kind of been most of my week in terms of anime stuff. And the thing y'all hear that? And welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending September 26th, 2020. We're going to talk about a variety of things. See if we can get all this working. Starting out with a new anime announcement. Hiroko Utsumi, who directed Banana Fish, Free Utopia Swim Club, and Free Eternal Summer, is going to be working with Bones on a new original anime project called Skate the Infinity, or SK8 the Infinity. It is a skateboarding anime involving these two dudes. And that's going to be interesting. The writer worked on Code Geass, The Lucia of the Rebellion, and Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress. So that's going to be interesting. Expect a lot of plot twists in that, I expect. Story apparently is about a second-year high school student who loves skateboarding and gets caught up in S, a dangerous underground skateboard race at an abandoned mine where there are no rules. rules. So that's a thing in coming that I think we can all hopefully look forward to. Is this something that you guys get kind of excited about, seeing this kind of anime?
I think I'll probably just watch it for the simple fact that, way back when I was back then, actually did skateboard badly.
Cool.
And had a buddy whose family owned a skate shop called Alley Cat.
An abandoned mine.
An abandoned mine where we all got together.
Wow.
Yes, and we skated down there, and to win was just to live, as we said earlier. But I think I'll just watch it just to relive a misspent youth on a skateboard, trying to do ollies and falling on my face. But what the hell? I'll give it a try.
Sure.
I'm gonna wait to see how y'all review this.
Fair enough.
Because I mean, I've been on like mine tours.
Okay.
And yeah, they're cleaned up for tour groups, and they make sure that it's safe. But it's like having the little narrow gauge track down the middle of the mine, and oftentimes random debris.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I can think of is like, yeah, let's do this. 3 seconds later, oh, they broke the trucks on the deck. Now I got nothing. Now we're all out. Like, that was exciting. Like. Did they like pave the mine just for this specific event?
John, the way you describe that kind of almost reminds me. I think of this as almost like Speed Racer but skateboards. So I'm thinking,
sold.
And just going through, because I'm thinking of that one Speed Racer episode where they're in the cavern, and it's a volcano, and there's the one dude you can't let his car go because it's full of gold. And Speed Racer sees him there, and Speed Racer goes, "I've got to win this race." Turns around, and runs away, in his car, Mach 5. Meanwhile, the bad guy's just like slowly sinking into the lava. There you Speed Racer. The skateboard version. All
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Well, this, you buy.
I'm curious.
Quip about things.
I'm curious to see skateboarding in anime. Like, that's a very specific kind of movement style, just kind of how they're going to be able to get that across with, not a huge animation budget. What do they simplify? What do they, really spend a lot of time on? I'm just curious to see how they tackle that problem. Because you can certainly do... you can certainly do a skateboarding anime where you're just doing this. And you're just kind of wiggling the cell a little bit, and that's your entire shot. Hopefully they don't do that a lot, but...
Are there any other animes really they feature any skateboarding?
I can't think of any that are skateboarding focused.
I've seen bicycles. I've seen rollerblades. I've seen a lot of kayaking, boating kind of stuff. But it's like I can't think of anyone I've actually seen somebody actually skateboarding in it.
I think
it's usually like an accessory, not to the character. Not
the
whole,
I think the protagonist
even just motion, like it would be one thing if you were like, scene. Boy enters on or girl enters on skateboard, stops, flips deck up, has a conversation. It's like I've never even seen that.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen that I can think of any of the series I've watched anybody own or ride a skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
But this will be definitely different. That's a very different focus.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm looking around a little bit. There's very little. Apparently there is some skateboarding and air gear, which is getting a very rollerblading focus with some folks with that.
Eureka 7.
Okay.
It's not exactly skateboarding.
Okay, yeah. Sort of cloud surfing.
Yeah. It's not exactly, cloud surfing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've seen snowboarding.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen when the choice is not to go to the beach, to go to the mountains. I've seen snowboarding, so that's kind of somewhere in there.
I think the protagonist of Gadgard goes around on a skateboard, which no one else has ever seen. But that might be there. But you're absolutely right. It's not a common thing. Oh, is there a Digimon character? There might have been a Digimon character that like rides around on a skate, and again, rides in one scene on a skateboard. Like it's that much. But I think I may have seen it at some point in Digimon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any others. That's interesting. I wonder that just hasn't taken off in Japan as much as it has over here. I don't know.
Let's just say you think about it, we talked about Akira featuring bike gangs
and
how unusual it was to feature bike gangs. Like Hollywood, any and every subject needs to be touched to monetize it as effectively as possible.
Yep.
So that will be very interesting to see what other things get monetized going forward. If they've struck on skateboarding, what else could they monetize? I don't know.
Yeah.
They've already done parkour. Dog Days. Dog Days was parkour.
Oh yeah.
There's. Yeah.
VTubers are clearly next. That is not the only other anime announced this week, however. There is a new anime in the Monster Strike franchise coming up called Hareruya Unme no Sentaku, or Hareruya Fated Choice. I do not know if that is a Japanization of Hallelujah. It doesn't say anything about that. It will stream online September 28th, and it's going to be interactive in the sense that viewers will be able to vote on the ending. The last 10 minutes will play out differently depending on the votes from viewers. Directed by Kanta Kame, who also directed Dimension W and Bunny Drop. Do that over at Yokohama Animation Lab. And the writer of the series is Makoto Uetsu, who worked on Assassination Classroom and Konosuba. So this is another Monster Strike thing. I don't know, interactive fiction, like interactive media in this way, has always kind of felt like a gimmick to me. I can't think of a time when it's like really worked in a way that, that was great. Although, on the other hand, maybe this is like where that's appropriate. I don't know.
Yeah, and outside of Choose Your Own Adventure books, I don't know that would be... Yeah. I mean, because with at least Choose Your Own Adventure books, you could actually, once you're unsatisfied with the horrible ending that you get, you go back and go, okay, let me choose the other one. Yeah. So, if this is one of those things where it's just like, you choose this, do we ever get to see the alternate? Or do we not? Or do we just get committed to the one track?
They will. They will. I mean, it's like Clannad. Where you have the very specific ending, and then you got the arcs with the other girls, because people will be like, well, I want to know what would happen otherwise, and then they're going to pay to watch that. So.
Yeah, it's like Clue.
But it's like Baldur's Gate, the anime. It's like, go left, right, left. No, suppose I went left, right, left.
Yeah.
In the early interesting days of the internet, you had some interesting, like Fox tried some interesting things, and I can't remember the name. It wasn't Stranger Things. It was some weird show, and their tie-in was that as you watched the show, the characters, they would do like paranormal investigations, and they would film it. And the early hook was that if you tuned in on like Friday night at 9:00. You would see the stream from their handycam. And that was their hook.
Okay.
So that as the episode is broadcasting, you would watch on the internet them streaming while sort of in the episode from the camera.
Interesting.
So it really, they pulled the show out for a season. It just, the logistics at the time were just too much to work with. And it's like, that was live people with broadcast schedule and a reasonably decent amount of technology that Fox was able to throw at it. Not anime.
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine very difficult to do. You're going to have to make all the endings. So it's just, it'll be interesting to see, because again, you're going to just have those endings come out anyway. So it really doesn't matter what the choice is. They're already deuced.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to say, you choose the ending and we'll see you in 6 months after we've made it.
True.
I somehow don't think that you're going to do that.
I don't think anybody's going to like that.
Episode 12 coming in 6 months. Thank you.
So, yeah. Curious to see how that's going to work. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Should be interesting. Moving right along, another new anime announced, this time for Netflix. TMS has announced that yet another Baki the Grappler anime is coming, a sequel to the Baki Dairaitaisai Hen series called Hanma Baki Son of Ogre, based on the manga of the same name. Coming to Netflix, this will be the third Baki series on Netflix. Once again, following the story of Baki Hanma, an underground brawler. This time he's challenging his own father. My goodness, serious stuff. So yeah, that is coming. No news that I can see on when, or anything like that, or on length, but that is coming. Have either of you seen any of the Baki stuff? Baki the Grappler?
Not even remotely.
20 seconds worth, and I just kind of went, not for me.
Yeah.
And switched off.
It's one of those, yeah. Same here. I think it's one of those things which it has its fan base. It's strong. It's clearly, it's interested. And great. We'll see more of that. Cool. But yeah, not much else to talk about there. We have one other project coming up. We're not quite sure what that project is, though. We have an announcement from Bushiroad of a new project called Road 59. It's going to be Yakuza themed. Not as in like the video game series, just like Yakuza in general, apparently. Called Road 59 Shinjidai Ninkyo Toku, the special ward for a new era of chivalry. Because when I think chivalry, I think Yakuza. And this will be their fourth major mixed media project after Bang Dream, Review Starlight, and D4DJ, which were band, theater, and DJ themed for those following. And the title is a play on a Japanese word, Gokudo, or the extreme path, which is sort of a poetic term referring to the way of life of Yakuza. The tagline for the franchise is a path from which you cannot return. It'll begin with a stage play running in December with the various cast members involved there. Set in the near future in a special ward of Tokyo with various Yakuza organizations vying for leadership and prestige and all that kind of good stuff. So it looks like we got 4 hot guys all vying for control from each other. Very much in the feel of this kind of thing. So let me ask you guys this: if you're doing a Yakuza themed anime, and you're not gonna kill them all in the first episode, you gotta keep these 4 characters all going. What is your plot? Like, what do you focus on? What story do you tell with this kind of a setup?
It's very simple. Since it's a BL story, you tell it just like Yuri on Ice. I mean, just layer over. Yeah, it's just all you need to do.
It's a Yakuza dance off.
Have the love quadrangle with those 4 main characters, and who's jealous of who, and who's cuts the pinkies off of whatever guy and somebody else. Who beats somebody with a bat, and then just make it a song and dance.
I'll tell you what. I'll invest in it.
Okay.
If Beat is somehow involved.
If who?
The Bee Gees?
Takeshi.
Oh yes, Beat Takeshi. Yeah. Sure. Yep.
Right up his alley.
You said the Bee Gees.
Actually, no. That would be awesome.
I'm like, there's some of them still alive, I guess. Your specific requirements, Steve, are really odd.
BG's Yakuza style.
There we go.
They're fighting Abba.
That I would pay to see,
Or
actually.
Abba.
Bee Gees versus ABBA?
No, yeah, now that I'm
Totally.
saying, yeah, that actually I'd watch. That's kind of good. It's a sing-off to death.
You know, I've seen enough weird concepts in anime. I could imagine an anime where, like, an anime personification of the Bee Gees fights an anime personification of ABBA. Why not?
Did you see any part or read anything about Listeners?
Yeah.
The spring season.
Saw the first episode.
You have Prince and basically Jim Morrison and like all these other like the sort of like the Clash fighting things.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
it's funky. So yeah, you guys go. I don't know what you're on, but go. Go.
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? Sounds like fun.
And DJ, it's got to be toe tapping fun.
Yeah. Exactly. Why not? We now have some announcements of not anime but games based on anime. News about a new game coming from the My Next Life as a Villainous All Routes Lead to Doom franchise. We now have a new game coming from the Automate brand next year, which will be called My Next Life as a Villainous All Routes Lead to Doom, the pirate known as Trouble. So Katharina Kleiss will be dealing with a pirate in this game, which it looks like it's going to be a visual novel. And My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu Climax is also getting a game, and that is going to adapt the third season, apparently, of My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu. Be working on, be done by the game developer called Mages. No other details available yet. It's funny, so much anime is based on like manga and video games and so forth. It's funny seeing it turned around where it's not just like we're gonna do a mobile game based on this or whatever. Nothing against mobile games, but it's like okay, we're gonna put a theme on top of something else. This is clearly no. We're going to kind of tell a new story or do an adaptation of an actual anime storyline in game form. Potentially, it's just kind of neat seeing that shifting back around.
It's not Pachinko.
Yes.
Aha!
We can make so much money.
I just think these.
Yeah.
I think the Snafu title seems to be a little weird. My teen romantic comedy climax. That
What's
seems
weird
like-
about that?
I don't know. Might seem like there will be some very interesting purchasers of that.
Well,
franchise.
hey.
The pirate one, though, it's interesting because the Otome, they do have magic. Don't they have magic in that world? They do.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
her opponent there has, all these magic skills.
Yeah.
So I could see that one. Yeah, that one adapts very nicely because each person has some kind of skill set that you can then like level up and get different spells, and now you're encountering a pirate, so that you're going to have some kind of combat scenes. It's like okay, yeah, that makes total sense. And Snafu's just a dating, a galga kind of thing. So you're just going to presumably make choices in that the third season didn't make.
And in fairness, apparently all the other seasons also inspired their own video games. So there's a PlayStation Vita. The PlayStation Vita games of those, which, getting back to our earlier comments, both came with limited editions that bundled OVA episodes.
There we go.
Yeah. Imagine that.
All these tie-ins, you crafty bastards.
Pretty much. Getting us to buy more stuff. How dare you?
Hey, money.
Speaking of spending money...
Good money.
Which they got me with Uzaki-chan Nendoroid today.
Oh.
I'm really sorry.
I can see why.
I was like, oh, that Nendoroid's so cute. Oh, yes, I hate you.
Just
I'm
gotta make
eat
sure
rice
it's
again for the next week.
Just gotta make sure it's properly balanced, right? That it's not gonna fall forward.
Yeah. I made sure. Hopefully it's not a knockoff. That's increasingly one of the things that discussions that we've had after the stream, where it's like, it actually has risen to the sort of level of awareness. It's like, am I getting actually licensed real product, or am I getting something even that looks at a price point like it's real product? Am I actually getting that, or am I fueling a sort of underground piracy deal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hope not.
Yep. Hard to tell these days.
Yeah.
Speaking of spending money on stuff, the manga of Akira is going into its 100th printing on Friday, which I believe was yesterday. Kodansha was issuing the 100th printing of Volume 1 of Akira. This is the first manga volume in Kodansha's history to hit this milestone. Volume 1 shipped 36 years ago in 1984, and Katsuhiro Otomo reached out with a bit of a thanks. Thank you all for all that money. Appreciate it. I don't know what else to say, but dang, yeah, there's a reason they made a film out of that. There's a reason that's a big deal.
Now, Brent, you have the volumes, and Steve, you have some of them?
Yeah, I have like the first third.
They have a full-on compendium. So are they, because the ones that Brent you showed look like each volume is dense as hell.
Yeah.
Is there a way to have a single, this is Akira? Or would that be like the size of a super encyclopedia?
Yeah, I don't.
Like
yeah. I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty big.
Because the 100th printing it's got me interested in unusually, since I'm mostly the anime watcher. It's actually got me interested in the actual manga. Like, yeah, that thing would be like the world's biggest encyclopedia.
I'm not aware of a binding that would work on that.
No joke.
And it would all have to be onion skin paper.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
you'd have to turn the pages with like very cotton gloves or something very carefully.
And I'm actually curious.
But again,
yeah, like, I don't know.
Money.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, my God, every week you show us something, and I'm just like, God, here's my wallet, and there's a reason why I'm poor.
Mm-hmm.
Heroin's cheaper.
Yeah,
you're supporting the industry.
Exactly. Yes. Other people are taking their rent off of that.
Some might call you a hero.
Exactly.
I might call you a poor schmo like me. So, hang on.
Yeah. Also this week, a few other quick headlines to run through. OhioCon has announced that they will be running their convention digitally. Imagine that. January 22nd through 24th. It'll be named eHioCon, which is cute. But that will be it. It'll be access for free on their Discord server, which is kind of interesting. Originally going to be held January 15th, so just moving it back a week. We'll feature some special guests, plus there'll be the ability to buy art, and there'll be some dealers there as well. They're accepting applications for their Artist Alley and Dealer's Room. There'll also be some gaming tournaments in the months and weeks leading up to the main event. But that is kind of what they are doing there. Let's see here. This is the largest and longest running anime convention in Ohio, first hosted in 2001. Star Blazers 2199 and 2202 compilation film is coming in January. So this is condensing all that stuff down. It'll open in a grand total of 36 theaters in a 3-week limited run. And then, of course, there'll be a Blu-ray and digital release available on the same day, actually. It'll be 2 hours long. It'll feature narration by Harutoshi Fukui, who was the main writer for these reimagining projects, offering commentary on the project. It'll be focusing primarily on Yamato 2202, and will contain new animation. So that's going to be interesting.
Well, and the great thing is for having it available on Blu-ray and DVD so quickly means that it will be hopefully very shortly thereafter hot into the hands of people and hopefully streaming services. I hope somebody out there is going to have it.
I would hope so.
It's probably, go figure. It's probably them.
Pretty much. A spin-off
Money on the movie.
A spin-off of Demon Slayer is coming in manga form in October. Ryoji Hirano will publish Demon Slayer Komatsu no Yaiba's spin-off in October 12th and 17th called Rengoku Gaiden, which will center on Kyojuro Rengoku. It'll be a total of 2 chapters, so nothing huge and lengthy, but definitely some more Demon Slayer coming that I'm sure a lot of folks are excited about.
Kimetsu no Yaiba guys.
I
know the guy, the girl, and some dude has a head like a boar.
I can't. I don't know how to tell you. I'm seeing an image of him. I don't know. He's a guy.
He's a guy. He's that dude with the hands and the shirt.
He has a sword.
Calls me Bill.
Yep.
And a mouth.
And eyes for seeing.
Yeah. Okay. I sadly have not gotten that far enough in the story to know. So sadly, not sure. Also, Studio Ghibli has released 400 images from its library for personal use. Various screenshots available, asking for use within the bounds of common sense. I'm sure, otaku are well known for their common sense, so that won't be a problem. They're from Marnie, Princess Kaguya, Wind Rises, Poppy Hill, Ariete, Ponyo, Tales from Earthsea, and Spirited Away. You may remember a few months ago, Ghibli released a bunch of these intended as like Zoom backgrounds and such. So this is sort of a follow-on to that. So that's nice of them, that you can do that, because if there's one thing I can't find on the internet, it's screenshots of Studio Ghibli movies. But still, it's nice. Finally, last but not least, there is now video of the life-size Gundam actually taking steps. So yes, they're the giant Gundam statue. I did not realize how much movement there is. It takes literally like 2 steps. Like, left leg moves forward, and then the right leg moves forward. I'm not sure how much articulation this has. It kneels. It's nuts.
Amazing.
I sent you a link to that, or I highlighted you on that when they ran, and I'm assuming, because if you look at the background, there's like a ferry that moves behind the gantry setup.
Yeah.
And you look at some of the trees and stuff in the foreground, it's obviously like 2 or 4 times speed.
Yeah, I think they've all been 4x.
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise, crap, the thing's moving in like real time. And it's huge.
I know.
Like, I saw the video, I'm like,
Followed by, I want it.
We gotta go. Get on the plane. Stop not letting anybody in your country. Let me go. Come on.
Well, and I mean, not to excite people too much. Also, you got to think these are all safety tests, right? They're all running it through its motion, so it may be able to actually move faster than that, right? Like it may just be okay. Let's just make sure it's going okay, and then we can actually kind of unleash it later on, so to speak. It does look like there's like some kind of a strut attached to like the small of its back. So like there's some limitation on that movement. I know they talked about like safety. There's like, let's not make this thing accidentally fall down. Probably a bad idea. But yeah,
I imagine that what you see in the gantry working behind it, and then whatever the thing that's attached to it.
Yeah,
I have to imagine that thing is probably like a 26-inch hydraulic pipe. Also, with all the electronics and everything in there.
I was going to say,
there's no way in hell that thing is driving its own hydraulic system. That's got to be like a massive hydraulic bank that's back behind it underneath the ground.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, wow.
it may be a good idea that they keep us out of the country because I can just see what's going to happen. I'm going to be on their news at like 8 o'clock in the evening. Look at the big American inside the Gundam going, yeah, yeah, buddy! Or downtown Tokyo or whatever.
Oh, look, another Baka Gaijin. Oh, how great.
Yeah, right. Who let this guy in?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sir, you're not supposed to claw at the thing to get into it. It's not actually a real Gundam.
Right.
But I still, let me in.
Well, that's the other thing is that like the earlier version, like it had Steam coming out, it had some other features. So I wonder what else they packed into this one, which would make it interesting and fun.
Yeah.
Sound effects too, obviously. But the thing is, like with this range of motion, one of the cool things is how they can put in different poses over time. So you walk up and it's in this pose, and then it's in that pose, and then it's doing this one from the last episode of original Gundam. So it's kind of neat the idea of this giant statue that will be different every time you go to see it.
Just give me one.
So that's the question.
I can't. How much money did this?
Yeah, that's my question.
As the geek archaeologist, Brent.
Yeah.
They have to have dollar signs on this thing. Just to, I mean, the was Odaiba Island. My understanding, it's like it did nothing. It just stood there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was their display thing.
The head swiveled. It did steam out of the vents.
Right, but
and then it had sound effects. That was it. Yeah.
Fairly static. Mm-hmm. And that still was probably like ridiculously expensive. This thing is like that to like a factor of I don't even know how much.
Right.
And I mean, it's like just wow.
So
wow. I should say wow.
I watched it move and I watched it articulate its hands. And the first thought that jumped into my head was, aside from I want one, can I drive it down Tokyo, was basically Otaku no Video at the end with Otaku Land.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, all the different stuff or even Daikon 4, the video Daikon 4 with all the different things there.
Yeah.
And I was just like thinking, would that not be a wonder? Because, God, Gundam theme park. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
How oh geez.
Well, here's the thing.
Really.
Next up is a Valkyrie. Right? We need a Valkyrie.
Right.
And now that they can move, like you can get a lot closer to a transformation sequence. You might be able to switch to like a Gerwalk mode at least. Who knows? But then we need a Pat Labor, right?
Yep.
We need a Pat Labor.
Yep.
Tachikoma.
Absolutely.
From Ghost in the Shell.
Need some Votoms in there. Yeah, there's a lot of potential. But it would be amazing, too. And I know one of the ideas they talked about, and I think this was the original proposal for this, is that it would be a Gundam standing over a Zaku that was on the ground. And so they can kind of interact, right? Like one could be pointing a gun, the other could be, doing a thing, and you can kind of switch those around over time. If you have multiple of these statues, which again would bankrupt Sunrise, and Bandai rather, but imagine the things you could do with like multiple statues, kind of interacting, so to speak.
So who is the multi-billionaire otaku who said, yes, we're greenlighting this? By the way, I'm not pointing, I'm not judging because I love it and I love this whole concept of it. And yes, I want a Valkyrie. Yes, I want an Alphonse. And I want.
This is one of those things where it's like all the Gun Plus stuff, all the eons of Gundam merch that they have done. We're looking kind of at the culmination.
We are, yes.
Like, this is tremendously successful merching.
Yeah.
Because you built this wildly crazy ass thing. And, one of the things I wonder about is, some of the Gundam where you have the shield and sword, it pulls the sword out. It's like you have that hand movement. It's like, if you've already got the movement, And you already have those little, like at any given concert you see where people are getting little light sticks. It really wouldn't take very much to create a thing like that, and that arm sweep, have it be a giant, a lighted sword, so that at night when the Gundam is lit up, it has the sword swing.
Well, and this is the other interesting thing for me is that can also be like on the gantry. Right, like you can have things that are nearby that it grabs essentially, and does, and then puts back. Yeah,
so cool.
Oh my god,
it's amazing. All because
come on, Japan, open up.
Because millions and millions of 14-year-olds bought Gundam model kits for 50 years. It's crazy.
Millions and millions of them are descending on the moving Gundam statue.
Exactly.
Close in Japan, Ryokan, visit that, check. They have to see the Emperor from a distance, check.
Gundam,
Shinjuku, check. Gundam.
There's a great moment in... So we have all the recent Gundam Build Fighters, Gundam Build Divers, all those series. The first one that they did was... I forget the name of it, but it was an OVA, like a 3-episode OVA, before any of the TV series. And it starts with the main character, this young kid, and his father is taking him down to see the life-size Gundam statue in Odaiba, which had just come up. And he's taking his kid, and there's this beautiful shot early on of them showing up, and the kid's like, wow, cool, and the father looks up with this giant grin on his face, because he grew up building Gunpla, watching Gundam, all this stuff, and he's watching his kid, follow on that thing, and just the idea of this being this iconic thing that you are part of and now passing on to the next generation, and has just been here for all of these years. It is amazing. It really is. Crazy. So that is a thing in Japan. It is actually moving and doing
stuff.
Yeah.
There's probably like a the old fashioned Yamato radar screen where it's all green with the sort of targeting, and it's like as soon as that opens, there will be the Gundam in the middle as the big green dot, and it'll go, and you'll see all these massive red dots coming, and those are the visitors coming to see it. They keep closing in. We don't know what to do. There's millions. Brace for impact.
They're coming 3 times faster than normal.
Sir, we don't have enough water bottles. Damn it, get more.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And that's a point. Because I know they announced when they brought this out that they're working with universities on it. I'm sure there's some robotics companies that they're working with on it as well. So I'm sure there's some some sharing of resources there to actually make it work. But yeah, gosh,
it wouldn't shock.
How would you like to have that on your resume?
Work on the giant Gundam.
No.
So what you do? So after you worked at Champs Sports of World of Sporting Goods, what'd you do then? Oh, I helped put the left arm onto the Gundam in Japan. Oh.
Well, just looking at this thing, it is essentially a giant audio animatronic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who does audio animatronics? Who also happens to have a location in Japan?
It's true.
Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's like, that would be, I would really, just joking aside, I would seriously think if you were looking at a giant hydraulically driven thing like that, that one of the things you do would be to go read some of the, documentation provided by Walt Disney Enterprises and see exactly what they did to get small scale and then work about upscaling it.
I wonder.
So, in my mind's eye, I see Disney making as big as the Gundam is, Tronic Abe Lincoln. And it goes toe to toe with the Gundam.
Abe Lincoln Vampire
in
Hunter.
the first.
I was about to say, it's like he can be a vampire hunter. He can fight a Gundam. He's Abe Lincoln, damn it.
And it will be the first real battle of the corporate wars of,
Yes.
of the new century.
Bandai versus Disney.
Oh dear. Bandai brings all its pachinko money. I don't know who I'd bet on. Gosh. But, yeah.
As we know from the statistics last week, pachinko money's big money.
Jeez.
Yes. 5% of GDP.
This is ridiculous.
And it's a mind-numbing game. Have you actually played it? It's a mind-numbing game.
All right.
Seemed like
That
the
is
kids'
that.
version of it.
There was a little bit of history this week, but nothing like really too crazy. Spirited Away premiered in American theaters on September 20th, 2002. That was the only other kind of really remarkable thing about anime history this week. Sort of quiet week historically in anime. But definitely a notable thing just because of the fact that that was the first sort of quote unquote wider release for a Miyazaki film. Mononoke had come out obviously, but it hadn't really hit a huge number of theaters. But it hit enough that then when Spirited Away, folks were like, oh yeah, that Miyazaki guy, and it definitely got his name in a lot more families' minds than before. So, kicking off that fandom in America.
Was Mononoke, that wasn't in conjunction with the Disney release deal, was it? Was Spirited Away the first combination?
Sorry, my audio cut out for a second. Could you repeat that?
Spirited Away was with Disney distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Was Mononoke with
Yes.
Disney distribution as well? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is interesting because you'd think it would have gotten, as much cred and as much like attention as Spirited Away did.
Well,
Disney's good at that stuff.
Yeah, well, and they pushed Mononoke, but Mononoke was also Disney was scared to death of Mononoke because it has people getting their arms chopped off and their heads chopped off, and so they're like this is not on our brand, which is why they did more of a Buena-Vista release, but also they didn't push it as hard as a lot of other properties. Because it was not a Totoro, it was not a Castle in the Sky. And then by the time Spirited Away came along, they're like, oh, this is what we want. This is what we're looking for. We'll put all the effort behind that one. But yeah, apparently, according to Steve Alpert, Disney had complaints about every single Ghibli film. They could not possibly release it because of X. It's like, great, thank you. Then why did you license them? Just kind of curious about that. But yeah, there were issues with every single one.
I was gonna say sometimes it's a matter of licensing what you wish to bury so no one else can show it.
Right. But yeah, the bath scene in Totoro, that was unacceptable. Castle in the Sky, the endangerment of Sheeta at the end, like having a gun pointed at Sheeta, that's verboten. Can't have that. Kiki, you see her underwear, can't have that. What else in? Well, you see up her skirt. I mean, she's
Right.
Nausicaa. I mean, it's a fairly violent film. There was something other in Nausicaa they pointed out. Porco, what was it in Porco? There was something in Porco.
A lot of Porco. Just gonna say Porco has a whole bunch of weird scenes in it.
That people get shot down. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was also it was that and a 16-year-old girl alone with an adult man. Can't have that. So yeah. So it get to a point where he was like, "So what? Why are we here?"
Yeah.
Very, very strange. But yeah. Cool. that is the news. That is anime history. So this might be sort of a quiet week tonight. So I do have to ask.
Say, we've hustled through.
Yeah.
We really have.
Yeah, we really did.
It's a quiet week for the news, apparently. And granted, we're in that sort of middle ground where we have like a month before the next season starts. No one's really announcing anything, so all of that. But the chef's trying to kill Sebastian with a cleaver. That's fine, exactly. But we can't have anything else. That's a scene, boy. That scene in Little Mermaid is kind of a. So we do have to ask a question, though.
I'll stuff you with bread. It don't hurt because you're dead.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent? So, I learned that hot guys sell.
Yeah. Yaku's the hot guys.
Yep, absolutely. Excuse me. I've also learned that there are some darn fine mechanical engineers in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed. I learned that Japanese cuisine can be as innocent as a ryokan and as decadent as a high school culinary school. And
it can be very pleasurable.
Indeed. So much so. So much so. And I learned that I will buy into a skating anime because we're hard pressed to find one that actually really exists.
It's true.
And that, the concept of ABBA and the Bee Gees going at it Yakuza style. Kill the people.
Yep.
And lastly, the one big thing that I learned tonight was, God, I really want to drive that Gundam down Shinjuku. I really, really want to be that guy that drives it down.
I think we're all with you on that one.
Say, I learned tonight that Japan's got to open up faster so we can see this Gundam. Please. That and it's always interesting to see how novels, games, anime, manga, how all of this just sort of interacts and I hate to say the repeating sludge pump, but you know what I mean? These things have such synergy with one another that they keep generating the same kind of things in different ways. And it's always an infinitely interesting thing to see merchandising at such grand scale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is nuts. Cool. All right, thank you all very much for being with us tonight. It's been a great time as always. Appreciate it. We'll be back next week. Have a great week. Until next time.
See ya.
Watch more anime.